Hey, this is Blake Cameron here, and just wanted to talk a little bit about my last blog post, which is Time is Money, Friend. And what this post is basically is talking about would you rather have money or freedom? And most people will first say they want to have money, and then they'll want to say that they want to have both. If you ever come into a lot of money, which I have not, but I was in a position where I didn't really have to worry about bills. I could go on the vacations I want. I wasn't a millionaire or anything like that, but I came into, a fairly high paying job, and I was probably more miserable than ever. Had nothing to do with the work itself, was just the lifestyle I guess I was trying to keep. I was trying to keep up with the Joneses. I figured, hey, since I have a big salary or get a big paycheck, now I can get all the things that I want to get or that I thought I wanted to get. I wanted to get a nice house, I wanted to get a nice vehicle, maybe a cabin or a vacation home, nice clothes, all these nice things um, that I could now afford. And I thought that's what everybody wanted. I soon found out that wasn't the case. Um, those things kind of were almost holding me hostage. I felt like I was a slave to, if I wanted a vacation home, I'd have to feel like I was obligated to go there for every vacation because I had to get my money's worth out of it. And then half the time, if I was there, I would spend fixing the place up or, buying new furniture for it or something to do with that second place. And that's just not what I wanted to do. Talked to a lot of people that had cottages or cabins, and half the time they were there, they didn't spend relaxing. They spent keeping their cottage or their cabin, the maintenance up to date, keeping the yard nice, getting new furniture, renovating. And they weren't really excited about doing that, and it was expensive. So I really felt like, well, I kind of want to take the minimalist approach, not like a hardcore minimalist, but more of, if I want to go somewhere for a week, 2 weeks, a month, I can rent a place. Yes, it may be more over the long run, but I'm not held, kind of hostage by these possessions. I don't want to have all these TVs, the big house with all this furniture, and then you end up with storage and all your possessions, and you go through all your possessions. You have a nice car, and you're always worried about whether it's getting scratched or keeping it clean. All of these things are unnecessary luxuries, unnecessary, things that we are taught and trained to as consumers to get. And those things really hold us hostage and keep us from living the life that we want to. I always wondered why when I went on vacation, I felt, I felt relaxed, not an odd thing to say, but I wondered why couldn't I feel relaxed at home, This home is supposed to be, where you live, where you're most comfortable at, and I realized that typically when we were on vacation, we had a hotel room, we had X amount of clothes, we had nothing to clean up. The maid came in every day, would clean your room. We had no dishes to do. We had, no housework to do, no meals to prepare. I could get up. I would feel a lot better about exercising. I'd have a lot better routine because I could get up and I had nothing to do. But go exercise, and it felt great. And I could go running, I could come back, and all I had to do was shower and go eat. So I'm like, well, why can't I have that all the time? That should be like what I live at home. I don't need all these, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, Friday after work, you clean the house, you do the dishes, there's a whole bunch of things to do, around your house. You gotta cut the grass, all of that And I like doing some of those things, and I know you can't get away from those, but keeping that minimalist lifestyle can really be rewarding and give you that freedom. It's not all about money. And yeah, when you're maybe super mega rich, you can get your own chef, you can get your own cleaning staff and things like that. But and then those people end up having a house manager. Those things are all unnecessary burdens. And they're very, very expensive. I don't know if I could live the life of that. Um, Another thing I noticed when I was on vacation, more outside of North America, more in the Caribbean, and especially in Europe, where you would go and there was always people outside. There was always everything was going on within the city, within the square, within the streets. And you'd go to their homes. They were very, very modest, very small. You'd stay in a hotel. It was very small. Not a lot of luxuries there. Typically, not a lot of gyms, not a lot of big restaurants, because everybody did everything outside of their own homes. They lived their life in public, on the street, with friends. And I noticed that those people didn't really work. They didn't live to work like we do in most of the Western countries, most in North America, where we get up, we work all day, and then we come home, and we're tired, we relax, and same thing, we work long hours all week, and come time for the weekend, we're tired. We can't do anything. A lot of the European countries, a lot of other places outside of North America, they work to live. They work just enough to get by. And they're not worried about all the things they don't have. They have small homes because they don't spend a lot of time in them. They're out eating dinner. They're out socializing with friends. They're drinking wine. They're having a good time. They really enjoy their life. And those are things that I could really get used to, and I found that is very different than the North American style that we're brought up in. And I really appreciated how they lived their life. And another thing is the rise of the 4-hour work week. Huge book by Timothy Ferriss. And what's surprising is, even though it did talk about, making a full-time income, but, I was watching a YouTube video, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, but he was saying that the real popularity of that book stemmed from the freedom that the 4-hour work week gave you. That you only had to work, quote unquote, 4 hours a week, and you had enough money to get by. Anything over that, you didn't care. As long as you had enough money to live, to do what you wanted to do, you had a much freer life. You could do whatever your heart's desire for most of the week, whether you wanted to travel, play sports, read, do hobbies, philanthropy, whatever you wanted to do. That book was super popular because of the freedom it gave you, not necessarily the money it gave you. And I'm all about trying to get money to work for you, so you can give you that freedom to live the kind of lifestyle that you want to live. Not necessarily being super rich, but giving you enough money to live where you can do kind of whatever you want, obviously within your financial means, but still give you the freedom to live and enjoy life. So that's what this post is all about. Hope you enjoyed this, and we will see you soon. Thanks.